Welcome to EduRev.
Hello and welcome to the next part of the lecture on the Preamble of the Indian Constitution. In this part, I will be discussing with you in detail the meanings of the values written in the Preamble. So let's begin. Now, the very simple definition of sovereign can be a country which is free from any interference, internal or external. Now, the point is that there are some definitions which are different on the paper as compared to what actually happens on the ground. For example, on paper, we are obviously a sovereign country. We do not have to take our instructions from anyone outside. We are free from any external interference. But is it really true? On ground, the situation may be different. I'll give you an example. WTO tells us what taxes can you put, what taxes you cannot put. USA forces us not to buy oil from Iran. Even internally, India के अंदर भी, the government is under pressure from many organizations. For example, when Manmohan Singh government was running, Anna Hazare का पूरा India against corruption movement था. When they forced the government to introduce the Jan Lokpal bill, वो भी तो interference ही है ना. When the government is being pressurized from internally or externally, are we still a sovereign country? क्या हम अभी भी sovereign हैं? By definition तो बिल्कुल है. Copy book अगर आप देखोगे तो बिल्कुल है. But in reality, no country in the world can claim to be a sovereign country in the real sense. Because it's not just India. केवल इंडिया की बात नहीं है. Most smaller countries across the world are pressurized by the larger countries, by the more stronger countries कि आप अपने decision ऐसे लो. This is how you can import, this is how you can export. So by copybook definition, we may be sovereign, but in reality, every country has to have some compromises. Every country has to, for the sake of its betterment only in the long run, obviously, but they have to take decisions under certain pressure, not just externally, but internally also. It's not just about external interference. It is about internal interference as well. The next adjective used for India is socialist. Now, the word socialist, as you would see, it was not in the original preamble. If this is the original preamble, in original preamble, India was a sovereign, democratic and republic. Just these three. The word socialist was added later on. When? It was added when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Under 42nd Amendment Act 1976, the word socialist was added. Now, if you have some doubts, what is a socialist country? Socialist country is a country where the government controls most of the market. The government controls the means of production. The government controls most of the things. I'll give you an example. Before 1991, in 1980s, 1970s, do you know there was a limit on how many cars can be produced throughout the country? The limit was 20,000. So even if more than 20,000 people were ready to buy cars, even if the companies were ready to make more than 20,000 cars, the government had given a limit that you cannot make more than 20,000 cars because government wanted to control everything. There was inspector Raj, there was license Raj, anything that you had to do, government had to come in. They will give you permission, they will interfere, they will decide कितने पे आपका सामान बिकेगा, कितने पे आप सामान बेच सकते हो, how much profit you can earn. That is socialism. Now it may seem bad like government is interfering, but the concept of socialism is that government is protecting the weaker section of the society. जो लोग अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते उनके लिए गवर्नमेंट विल इंश्योर दैट द रेट्स आर केप्ट लो इन द मार्केट इज अंडर गवर्नमेंट्स कंट्रोल एंड देयर इज नो ईविल फोर्सेस. कोई प्रॉफिट एकदम से कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं हो रहा है किसी के हाथ में. नो वन कैन ब्लेम एनीवन और नो वन कैन एक्चुअली प्रेशराइज एनीवन एल्स. सब अपनी अपनी लाइफ जी पा रहे हैं. And even the people who are poor, who cannot afford the amenities, उनके लिए भी government help करेगी. That is what socialism is. In 1991, however, when India introduced its very famous LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization reforms, India's socialism started to change. For example, today, India is not really a socialist country. We are a mixed economy, where government has taken a step back from most of the things. रेलवेज आप देखो धीरे धीरे करके प्राइवेटाइज हो रहा है. डिफेंस में प्राइवेट कंपनीज हैव एंटर्ड. स्पेस में many satellites are being built by startups which are in Bangalore. आप टेलीकॉम देख लो, एयरलाइंस देख लो, किसी भी बिजनेस में नाउ प्राइवेट कंपनीज आर फ्री टू कम इन मोस्ट ऑफ दीज बिजनेसेस एक्सेप्ट वेरी वेरी फ्यू. Like in nuclear, abhi bhi India mein private companies are not allowed. But in most of the sectors that we see around us, the private sector has a bigger role to play than the government. पहले ऐसा नहीं था. We only had BSNL, MTNL, which is not the case. We only had Air India, Indian Airlines, that is not the case. So abhi government has taken a step back after 1991 and the private sector has started to emerge. Then India is a secular country, obviously. We are very proud of this uniqueness that we are. India proud itself to be a secular country, but remember, India's secularism is not the same as the Western form of secularism. In Western countries, secularism means the state or the government will not interfere in religion. Religion will do its own thing, government will not interfere, but that is not the case with India. In India, you see government interfering by banning triple talaq, government interfering by banning child marriage, government interfering by banning untouchability. So government in India does interfere in religion for the betterment of the people. The word secular also, if you remember, was not in the original constitution. It was introduced along with socialist by again 42nd Amendment Act 1976 when Indira Gandhi government was in power. Secularism is clearly enshrined within the fundamental rights, that is part 3 of the constitution from articles 25 to 28, which we will read about in much detail when we are discussing the fundamental rights part of our constitution. Then we are a democratic state, again a quality that all of us are so proud of. India is the world's largest democracy in terms of the number of voters that we have. Democracy again is usually of two types. There is direct democracy, there is indirect democracy. And India follows an indirect or representative form of democracy. Direct democracy is followed in countries such as Switzerland, there is Japan as an example, Germany is a or Scandinavian countries are also partial examples. Direct democracy means the people have a lot more powers. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन इंडिया हमने बस एक बार वोट कर दिया, फिर 5 साल के लिए हमारे पास तो कोई पावर नहीं है ना. दी एमपीज एंड एमएलएज वो अपने डिसीजन लेंगे, उनको जैसे लेने हैं, हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. इवन इफ द एमपी और द कैंडिडेट केम टू यू कि मुझे वोट दो, चांद तारे तोड़ लाऊंगा, दूध की नदियां बहा दूंगा, एंड वी वोटेड फॉर हिम एंड ही डिड नॉट डू दैट, वी कांट डू एनीथिंग. हम तो 5 साल बाद ही कर सकते हैं, और 5 साल बाद यू विल सी देयर सम अदर कैंडिडेट. बट इन डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी, people have the power to call back their candidate, people have the power of referendum, plebiscite, government important decision लोगों से पूछे बिना नहीं ले सकती. Those are direct democracies. इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं होता है. We have followed parliamentary form of democracy that we will study about later when we discuss about the features of the constitution. Because of the scale of our population, we can't have all the decisions given to the people time and again. So India, because of the scale of population that we have opted for indirect or a representative form of democracy over a direct form of democracy, which is more favorable and possible in case of smaller nations. And we obviously are a republican state. Republican state means the head of the country, that is the president of India, in our case, is not a hereditary position. Once the tenure of the president is over, anyone else can become the president if you fulfill the eligibility criteria. There is no discrimination. The president's position does not belong to one single family. It's not a hereditary position. It can be taken up by even the most common people in the country. That is what a republican state is. Now remember, republic and democracy are two very different things. For example, England is a democracy because they elect their representative, but it's not a republic because the head of the state is the queen. Same with Japan, they have an emperor. Same with Spain. So there are many countries across the world which are not republic, but they are democratic. Just because India is republic and democratic doesn't mean all the countries सब ऐसे ही होती हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता. Remember that. ठीक है? Now based on this, I have 2 questions for you, and let's see if you are able to solve these questions. Question number 1. Read this carefully. Secularism envisages a greater role of the state in economic development of the country. Second statement, the preamble secures liberty of worship to all citizens of India. Which of these is incorrect? Now, I have many students who read the question so quickly that they don't even pay attention whether is it asking you the correct statement or the incorrect statement. So here you have to tell the incorrect statement. As you can see, first statement is incorrect. Why? It is socialism that says that state should play a bigger role, not secularism. So first statement is incorrect. Second is correct, because preamble does tell that India is a secular country. So you have to tell the incorrect one. The answer here is A. Second question, it's about the preamble. First statement, objective resolution was written by Nehru on 13th December 1946. That is correct. Second, the objectives of the Constitution are justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity to maintain unity and integrity of India. That is again correct. Third, the preamble page was designed and decorated by Sri Prem Bihari Narayan Rajada. This is incorrect. Prem Bihari Narayan Rajada was actually the calligrapher of the original constitution. He was a calligrapher who wrote the constitution. But the page design was done by Biohar Ram Manohar Sena. So the correct answer is A, 1 and 2. There is one more point of information I would like to tell you. The word integrity here was also added later on by 42nd Constitution Amendment 1976. Earlier it only said to maintain the unity of the nation and not integrity. So answer here is A. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the session. As you know, EduRev Infinity is a platform prepared by the UPSC experts for aspirants like yourselves. It has over 10,000 questions for your practice which are made as per the level of the UPSC exam. Thank you so much for watching.